So thank you, Caroline, for turning up for this session today. Caroline is a very prominent speaker on the market and is a very active member of ANLP, an ANLP trainer member, and has been very kind to offer her services today to tell us about designing your life. So with that, without further ado, Caroline, can I hand over to you?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Cash. And I echo what I said before we kicked in, that thank you so much for this opportunity to share with everybody today. So, hi everyone. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to myself before in a minute. But at the moment, how many people in this room, if you can like give me a wave or raise a hand, how many people in this room are ANLP members or coach trained, either? Okay, so about half of you. Super. And how many out of all of you are actively using your coaching training skills at the moment? Do you use them as part of your role? Super. Super. Thank you so much for sharing. And next question about you. Whereabouts in the world are you? Please pop it in the chat box. Pakistan. Wow, miles away. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Sobia. Leicester, Blackpool, so lots of people from the UK, just outside Henley-on-Thames. Prague, Scotland, Nigeria. Wow, Norfolk. Hello, Caroline too. You're in London. Buckinghamshire, Blackpool, so all over the place. Cape Town, South Africa. Wow, what an audience. Welcome everybody. And that's why I absolutely love this environment, because we can really connect with people globally and all around the world. And I have to say, it's opened up my world massively. So welcome everybody. Today, how many of you actually have saw the article in the ANLP magazine? None of you. Super. That means I get a fresh, I can tell you whatever I want now, can't I? I'm not even stuck to a list. Fabulous. No, that's actually wonderful, because hopefully Cash is going to share that article with you at the end. We'll pop it in the chat box so that you can have that to take away with you. But let's dive in.
Actually, Caroline, what we're going to do is we're going to put it up on the ANLP website, so that
super.
it's accessible on this chat.
Oh, super, wonderful. Thank you very much. So let's dive in. How to design your vision and align your life. Okay, so we're in the Zoom room just to set a few ground rules. This session is being recorded, so if there's anything that you don't want to share, save that till the end. If there's something that you want to ask, then save that till the end. Please have fun. This is not a serious topic. It's something that we can be absolutely playful with. Keep yourselves away from distractions. Play all out. Be 100% in. Although, be guarded if there are things that you don't want to be recorded. I will try my best to keep to the time. It will be under 90 minutes. It might be shorter than that. It just depends what comes up from everybody in the group. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently because we are recording this session. So anything else that people want, if we've got time at the end, we can have some questions and answers. So I hope that's okay with everybody. If there's anybody that's not familiar with Zoom, you can pin if you're in your little icons where your little tile is with your face on. You can check on those little 3 dots and pin anyone in the audience. So if you wanted to pin me speaking, then you can do that. And if there are other features, but just enjoy and dive in. So this is how it was described to you before you booked. So this is a quick fire session into designing your vision and aligning your life. So, and I want to congratulate you all actually for gifting yourself 90 minutes to your own personal development. And I wholeheartedly mean that, because those of us that are attracted to the coaching industry, the coaching and NLP world, the personal development world, would you agree we're really giving people? We are really giving people, but what we don't often do is give that time to ourselves. So I do want to give you a huge congratulations for gifting this time to yourself. So a little bit about me, and thank you so much for the introduction, Cash. It's incredible for me to be here. So I've been in the financial services industry for 27 years. I didn't plan on having a journey in NLP, and I was a bit of an eye roller. If I was sent on a soft skills training course, I'd be like, oh gosh, this again. Why do I need to do that? And really, it was because the training that I'd had wasn't particularly effective. It wasn't particularly geared to what I needed. And so I felt that there was no value in that. Now, I was a technical trainer. I've been a technical trainer since I was about 20 years old, and that was decades ago. But I didn't have the soft skills to enable me to succeed. And I totally fell into this industry. I had been in financial services for about 20 years, and I was part-time by this time. I've got 2 children. My youngest son had started school, and I wanted to get my brain back. But in the financial services industry at that time, that was not possible. There weren't leadership roles for people part-time at that time. I'm pleased to say that the matters that have happened in the last few years have meant that actually that's massively changed, and there are flexible opportunities in the corporate world these days, but there weren't back then. And so what I did is I fell into a network marketing company because I was looking for something to do part-time, alongside the security of my day job, to be able to get something more and to bring me back, because I'd fallen into full-on mum mode and I was starting to lose myself a little bit. But what that did was it led me down a rabbit hole. I was coming across all of these people that were so positive and they really wanted other people to thrive. And it was an environment I'd never been part of before. And I asked them what they were doing, and they said, oh, we read. And I was like, well, I read too, like if I can get 5 minutes away from kids. So there I am on the beach with a chick book. I read. And then they said, no, not those kind of books, self-help books. And there I was again, eye rolling. I'm not doing that. A spit Bridget Jones. Self-help books, crying into a wine bottle. No. This is not happening for me. But I watched these people and I watched how they were succeeding. And so I decided to step in. I suddenly realized, reading these publications, reading books, that these successful people thought like I did. They had the same challenges that I had, but they overcame them through this thing called personal development. And so I sent myself down a rabbit hole. And in 2015, it actually led me to becoming a single mum, because my outlook on life had completely changed. And when my ex had my children for the first time on his own for a weekend, which was the first week in January in 2016, I felt like my arms had been ripped off. I was going to be spending a weekend without my children, and that had never happened. I'd never been away from them for more than a couple of days, and certainly never on my own. All of my friends were busy, and I thought, what do I do? And Facebook popped up with a serendipitous offer of, why don't you go on a coaching course for 2 days? And in all honesty, I thought that would fill my time. And whilst I was a technical trainer at this time, within my industry, within my bubble, doing anything like this on my own was so far out of my comfort zone. So far out of my comfort zone. And I remember standing outside this studio and literally shaking, thinking, Caroline, what on earth are you doing? You've spent money that you don't have to get this train ticket, to come on this coaching course, just because somebody said you might be a good coach. And I had to force myself into that door. And I remember sitting on I looked in, there was a sea of people, and I remember sitting on that in the entrance, taking my name off the list, and then running to the toilets and sitting there thinking, Caroline, you've got to go in there. Caroline, you've got to go in there. Caroline, you've got to go in there. You've come all this way, you've got to go in there. And I forced myself to go in. There were about 500 people in the room. But what I learned there was actually there were some tools there that I'd learned at work. So this was no longer such a scary place. And I met a few people there that later on introduced me to another coaching course in the April. And that's where the magic really began to happen. That's where I met my coach and mentor, Steve Payne, who is a master trainer with the Association for Neurolinguistic Programming. And I can wholeheartedly say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that that day changed my life. I went on an introductory day introducing the tools of NLP, and I came out completely seeing the world from a new and different perspective. And I knew at that point that I had to start bringing this into my industry, but I had no idea how to do that because I didn't have the influence in that arena at that time. Fast forward, I've just been reflecting with Cash a little bit over what's happened for me this year. So much has happened, and I'm going to explain some of the pitfalls and also some of the huge highs as we move through this session, in the hope that there's some of these stories will help you with your journey too, and also obviously be giving you the 6 keys to success. But this time last year, I still pinch myself. Sorry, if I do that, it does it by itself, I think. This time last year, I became an international best-selling co-author of a book called Determined to Rise. I still can't quite believe that happened. And after a really dark period, some really dark periods through my insurance career, somehow this year I was nominated for Women in Insurance Awards 2023. I didn't get through to the final, but flipping heck, it's a huge milestone for me in my development, and a huge mark of what these tools can do. And that's what I want to share with you, is that, you know, there's a lot of people in this room that are familiar with these tools, and I'm sure that those that are familiar with these tools have already experienced huge transformation. And sometimes some of us, and I've been there, sometimes we can fall off track and we can forget the magic of these tools. NLP really has the structure of magic, and I'm going to share with you how this happened for me. So NLP is all about modeling success, modeling behaviors that you want to adopt, and understanding the nitty-gritty of how people achieve what they achieve. Breaking down those processes into steps. Now, when I was a little girl, obviously I didn't know anything about NLP. I didn't learn that until 7 years ago. When I was a little girl, things weren't always rosy. I was an entrepreneur at school, and I was absolutely thriving a lot of the time in primary school, but that didn't happen for me in secondary school. From when I was very young, I would remember that if I was frightened about something that was going to happen, I would go to sleep with my fingers crossed tightly under my pillow, and I would close my eyes and I would imagine what I wanted the outcome to be, as opposed to the outcome that I was fearing. And there were several times in my life, and I can't share all of those stories because they're not related to me. They're connected to me, but they're not wholeheartedly related to me. There are other people involved in those stories. But every single time, the following day, something magical would happen. And the outcome that I and much of the family anticipated didn't happen. Now, that to me was ultimate magic. And it gives me goosebumps right now, just sharing those thoughts with you. And I know I'm not able to share the details, but I didn't know how or what I was doing. to create these outcomes. But over the course of the last few years, I've begun modeling myself to understand how I have been achieving success, and also to understand and to be able to teach it and to be able to share it with you. So in 2016, off the back of, 2018, off the back of learning the coaching and NLP tools, I put together a program called Enabling Personal Success, which for me is the nuts and bolts of anything any individual needs to do for themselves to excel themselves. Now, that's a whole day or even whole weekend project. And we're going to step into just some of those points today. Before I step onto that, you know, life isn't always a bed of roses. Sometimes we have what we feel are extreme successes, and other times we feel even grateful that we've managed to get out of bed that day. Can anyone else resonate with that? Sometimes those struggling to get out of bed days are more plentiful than the highs. And typically, we only share on social media and on our websites the highs. But I can absolutely assure you that through this journey, it has not been all highs. I'm going to share some magical moments that have happened, but also some other things that have happened. Back in 2015, when I stepped onto this personal development journey, I was also ill, but I didn't know what was wrong with me. I would be sat at my desk. A lot of my roles was involved in analysing spreadsheets, and I'd be sat at my desk and the words would just be swimming. And I would struggle to do my work, and I would struggle to get my targets done. I didn't know that I was actually physically ill. It was only a little vitamin deficiency. So it's amazing what little vitamin deficiencies can do to your performance and for your health. But I was really frightened at that time. Things were really not going well for me at work. And even though I've been there for a really long time at this point, I didn't know what my future held. And I remember that I had an appraisal the next day. And I was so frightened, just like I did when I was a little girl. I went to sleep with my fingers crossed under my pillow. And I imagined my boss saying nice things about me in my appraisal. Has anyone else experienced one of those times when you get called to the office and your stomach just turns over? Well, that was one of those times for me. But when I arrived in the office that morning, this was in an envelope. Thank you for shouting out and making things better. One of the company values at the time, or one of the company statements, was make things better. So this was kind of an acknowledgement of one of those targets. I thought I was going to get put on a performance review at that time. And instead, I came in and I got a note from my boss with some vouchers saying, "Dear Caroline, I noticed thanks and appreciation for all of your hard work this year." Oh my goodness, couldn't quite believe that. I felt like I was losing hours staring at the screen. "You've achieved much admiration from the team, shouting out to all the visitors to what our team is all about and raising the profile whenever you can. This is no easy task, but you've achieved it through your enthusiasm for your role. I know you've had a challenging time recently, but you've continued to keep your commitments and it's a credit to you. Well done." Cannot put into words how I felt that day. And that was before I broke down what I'd been doing. So when I went to do my NLP training, I did my coach training and my NLP training separately. Many organisations are now combining these because they see the benefit of how coaching and training really go together hand in hand. So I'd done my coach training, most of it, And my coach, Steve Payne, he said, Caroline, I think you should come and do NLP. And I said, I don't really understand what that is. And he said, you don't need to understand what that is. Just know that it goes perfectly with the tools that you've already learned on the coaching course. I'm running a week in Marbella, and it's going to be an intensive NLP practitioner course, and you're going to come away as an NLP practitioner. Why don't you come along? In my heart, all I thought was going to happen for me that day, that week, was that I was going to get on a plane by myself. And if you connect with me on Facebook, you can go back through my videos and you can see the video 2016, October, where I'm sat in Southend Airport on a Facebook Live telling everybody how brave I'm going to be. I'm going to get on a plane by myself without my family, and I'm going to go and do this course for a week. That was just the next level. It absolutely transformed my thinking way beyond anything that I could have dreamed possible. I had always been called glass half empty Martin in my career. And my boss at the time, it was quite an endearing thing. I wasn't offended by it because I was very, very, very woe is me and not optimistic in one way, shape or form at all. In fact, my mantra back then was that I could write stories for EastEnders because there was such a lot of catastrophic stuff happening in my world that I genuinely thought that that was true. But what I didn't realise was happening there is that I was focusing on all of the negative things. And therefore, I was bringing about more negativity. When I returned from my NLP course in Marbella, a week later, I could hear a lot of people talking. You know, have you ever had that time when you feel like there's people in the office talking about you if you work in one of these open plan offices? I felt like everyone was talking about me, and I was getting paranoid and feeling like I was being judged, and I was getting very worried. And I came back from lunch one day, and there was this little box on my desk, and I wish I'd kept it in pristine condition because it means so much to me. I didn't. I used it until it was absolutely worn out. There's this little box on my desk with a pen in it that said Caroline, positive and passionate. And at that point, I burst into tears and ran to the ladies, to which a friend of mine also followed me and said, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? And I was like, what did who do? And she said, I put that box on your desk and it's made you cry. And I couldn't catch my breath to say that I was crying because I was so proud of the transformation that I'd achieved through the hard work that I'd put in. And I'd become Caroline, positive and passionate. No longer glass half empty Martin. But how does this all relate to designing your vision and aligning your life? There are all some nice stories, lots of successes. One of the colleagues that I had in 2005, I'm a great believer in vision boards. I wasn't. I created one in 2015, and I'm going to, my first one in 2015, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that happened for me as a result of creating that. But creating the vision board was just the beginning. So in 2016, I decided that I went on a personal development course with someone that you might know in the industry. His name is Will Polston, as part of Make It Happen. And I went to one of his goal setting sessions early in January because I thought this is going to be my year and I'm going to achieve some stuff. And whilst I was there, I set a goal to save £3,000. It felt like a bit of a ridiculous goal at the time, as I'd become a single mum, didn't really know how I was going to pay the mortgage from month to month. And so how on earth was I going to have £3,000 spare cash in my pocket? My shares matured from work and they were unusually high that particular year. They had an unusually high return. And there I was, sat with £3,000 in my bank, and I hadn't specified what I was going to do with this. I just wanted that feeling that I'd done something and I'd achieved something, and that it was going to be there, back how I used to be with my safety net. At the time, I'd started following Tony Robbins. Does anyone else here follow Tony Robbins, or has done in the past, familiar with Tony Robbins? So I was getting right into Tony Robbins, watching the YouTube videos, but I had no concept of the things that Tony Robbins does. Have we got any firewalkers in the room? Oh, Susanna, have I pronounced your name correctly?
Yes, Caroline, hi. Yes.
You are a
That's
firewalker. When did you become a firewalker?
Well, it was last year in November, so actually a year ago. And interestingly enough, I wanted to do the same, later on this year, and it didn't allow me to do that. That's a part of the process.
Well, maybe you need to follow my my magic, because congratulations on becoming a firewalker. And just for a bit of context for the rest of you that are not familiar, I didn't know how I was going to go to this session. I'd been watching Tony Robbins and thinking, oh, that would be nice, but I had no concept that he even did anything in the UK. Because he's American, and I was just watching videos on YouTube. And then somebody that was a connection of Steve Payne put on Facebook that they had a ticket for Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins. And the tickets were diamond tickets, so really close to the front. And it was going to cost me just about everything that I'd saved in order to go. And a friend of mine said to me, well, what did you save that money for? And I said, well, I don't really know. And they said, well, obviously you must have saved it for that. So off I went to Tony Robbins. I highly recommend. Everything that Tony Robbins does is very NLP. It's all NLP. And the experience was way beyond anything that I could possibly have imagined. You spend 20 minutes sort of studying yourself, and then 20 minutes jumping around the room like a lunatic, sometimes till 3 o'clock in the morning if Tony Robbins is feeling well. So another NLP professional to follow if you haven't done already. But for me, like a child, when I got back, I had my wristband. I didn't want to take it off. You known children to do that, or have you done that? I didn't want to take it off. So what I did is I took it off. By the time I did take it off, obviously, she needs to like wash and stuff. And I put it on my vision board, and I'm pointing that way because my vision board's over there. I pinned it on my vision board, and daily I would think to myself, why am I doing this? Why? Why am I putting this on my vision board? I can't justify spending that money again. I've got all the workbooks. I did all the stuff. I can look the YouTube videos up if I want to. Why am I doing this? Why is it on there? And I doubted it. Every time I looked at the board, I doubted it. And in the January, I got a message from the person that organised the tickets the previous year, advising that there was a bit of a hiccup with our tickets, and he'd managed to secure repeat tickets for the next session, which was in 2018. So somehow I manifested a repeat of that. And I'm now a possibly 6, possibly 7 times firewalker, because I've done some charity events as well. Highly recommend it. Absolutely transformational. You need NLP to do it, I would say. Other things that happened that year, for example, I stuck 2 planes going in the same direction on my vision board. I didn't know why or how that was, what that was even for. I just put things on there that I wanted to happen and things that made me happy. I ended up going on 2 foreign trips that year. One as a holiday, where somebody invited me to go and stay with them that I used to know when I was young, and one as a business trip. I couldn't have envisaged that happening. I had a mountain on there, and I didn't quite know how that was going to happen. And I ended up climbing a mountain in North Wales that I'd climbed when I was very little, and I only realised it later on when I came to changing my vision board that those kind of things that had happened. Now, back then, I was literally just going from the heart, and I encourage you to do that and to put things in pictures and lead from your heart. The things that light you up, the things that you want in your life, the things that make you happy, and also how you want to feel. Also on my vision board, I don't even know why I put it there, a book. And I became an international best-selling co-author. Who knew that? A certificate. I became certified in one of the insurance exams just 6 months ago. And here was my vision of standing as I am here with you today. But on the right-hand side, and never underestimate, you don't have to do this stuff and put it into pictures, right? You just have to know it in your heart and believe it. 2 years, not 2 years ago, it might have been the earlier part of this year, actually. My coach and mentor had a trip to Hong Kong. Oh, Gwen, you've put in the chat box. For 35 years, changed your life. Yes, absolutely. I'm with you on that. My coach and mentor went to Hong Kong for a business trip, and he sent me a fabulous picture of his window in Hong Kong. And I sat there thinking, oh, we're on a Zoom call, and I was looking at the backdrop of where he was with all of these high-rise buildings. And I thought, oh, I want that. When I'm as good as you, I'm going to have that kind of experience, and I'm going to keep practicing until I'm as good as you. Now, I didn't get to visit Hong Kong yet. I haven't. I'll correct my own language there. I haven't managed to visit Hong Kong yet. However, here is a view from my, a very similar view from my hotel suite in Manchester, where I was invited in my industry, and those people that know me know how huge it has been to become recognized as a figure in my industry. And they put me in this fabulous suite in the Hilton in Manchester because I was speaking for them the next day. It's one of my huge, huge, huge milestones. But that actually was created from a vision that I had from somebody else. And that happened again when I did my speaker training. The layout from the speaker training was a completely different hotel. It wasn't the Hilton Hotel. It was the Leonardo, one of those new ones in London last year. My speaker training. The platform and the area and the stage area and all of the area outside, I don't have any pictures of it, unfortunately, but all of the area outside from when I did my speaker training was almost identical to this particular hotel and arena. And there have also been other instances, and I can't show them to you because this I don't want people to in my industry to know too much about the things that I've manifested. But there are visitors passes and events that were on my board that I'd attended, that I'd said to myself, I'm putting those on my board because not only do I want them to happen again, like these things did, but I wanted to speak at them. And I've had a huge number of speaking events this year. When the world went crazy, my laptop broke. I stepped back into the coaching world because the world went crazy and I needed to be around positive people again. I was flying back again in my job and in the insurance industry. Best thing since sliced bread again. But inside, I was going a bit crazy inside, not being around people from the personal development world. And my laptop broke. Now, for a long time, I'd had the picture on the left on my vision board. And what I meant by that is A, that I wanted to work from home, and B, that I wanted a new laptop. The picture on the right is a picture of the laptop that was gifted to me when my laptop broke. Magical? And there is so much more. The picture on the left here is a picture that I had taken at the ICC in Birmingham. And I had it taken 10 years ago now, 10 years ago. I went to a conference with the network marketing company that I was with, and when everybody was out of the room, I snuck on the stage and got one of my friends to take a picture for my vision board. I wanted to speak on that stage at the ICC. Now, this is where I'm going to begin to tell you that you need to be very careful with what you wish for, and you need to be very specific with what you wish for, because this one worked out for me, but many others haven't. So the picture on the left is when I stood at the ICC in Birmingham, totally fake it till you make it, put a picture on my board that I could look at every day. The picture on the right is from last month. I didn't speak at the ICC in Birmingham, but I did speak at the ICC in Wales. And I could not have seen that coming 10 years ago, no way. So, how do we do this? I've broken down into component parts the keys to success, the keys that I believe are the keys to success. Now, I will be honest with you. Every time I share this and every time I look at it for myself, and I do look at it for myself on a regular, very regular basis, I change it and I tweak it because life is forever moving. There are always learnings and there's always room to get better and to sharpen the tool. We're going to step into the 6 keys to success. But first of all, let's just look at what they are. So, and you don't need to write these down because we're going to jump into each one individually. Know your perfect 10. Now, what do I mean by that? Some people feel a bit, oh, that word perfect, it can never be perfect. But what would be the ultimate goal for you? What would be the perfect outcome for you? What's a perfect outcome for me? I mean, it might be absolutely couldn't be furthest down your list to speak on a stage. And for many people, that is the case. I often think I'm bonkers. For somebody else, I know I'm bonkers. See you laughing there, Cash. I am bonkers. Let's just face it, I am. For somebody else, it might be a different goal or a different thing. And that's absolutely fine because we're all individuals and everything that we bring to the table is individual to us. So we're going to explore, what does your perfect 10 look like on a scale of 1 to 10? Your values, we can only scrape into these topics today, but your values, what are the things that are important to you? Our values are the compass for our life. And I didn't understand this at all. In fact, in my corporate career, until I learned the NLP and coaching tools, in my corporate career, the values were those fluffy words that you have to tick through when you do your appraisal. At times, I felt like I was flying in my career, and at other times, I felt like everything was going against me. And what I didn't realize at that time is because my values weren't in alignment through the turbulent times. What are your habits and behaviors that you have right now? What are the ones that set you up for success? And what are the ones that actually are holding you back? Paying attention to your language. And what I mean by that is paying attention to how you're talking to yourself. Are you setting yourself up for success? Or are you setting yourself, or are you being your own best friend, or are you beating yourself up? We're humans. We spend a lot of time beating ourselves up. We spend a lot of time not being our best supporters. Our environment. And when I talk about environment, I'm not only talking about the stuff that's around us, where we live, our place of work, is it conducive to what it is that we need to do? I'm also talking about the things that we've got. is there anything that we need that will help us towards what it is that we want to achieve? And or even anything that we need to get rid of. I know for me, I need to get rid of some clutter in my environment. There's a lot of clutter in this house, and I believe it's holding me back from doing some things that I want to do. But equally, who are the people in your environment? Who are those ones that light you up and cheer you on? Especially the ones when you can't do it for yourself. And who are the ones that are holding you back? And gratitude. It's so important. Our lives are like an absolute roller coaster. Success is not a straight line. But if we can find gratitude in the moments that we have and appreciate the things that we do have, rather than focusing on the things that we don't have, not only will we be happier, but we will rocket fuel our success. And as Walt Disney says, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So this I like to call the happiness wheel. I think many of you are possibly familiar with this concept already. I'm just going to try and get as many of you as I can on the screen. Is anyone here familiar with the coaching wheel? Yeah? How often do you use it yourselves, though? And again, I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. We've gifted ourselves the time today. And I think as coaches, as NLP practitioners, as professionals in whatever field we're in, as parents, as leaders, as individuals going about life, whatever your life is, it's so, so, so important to keep revisiting these tools for ourselves. Back before the world went crazy, there used to be, well, it still happens on aircraft. You know, you have the safety videos on an aircraft and they're pulling down, they're like, you must put your own mask on and then you must help everybody else that's around you. I'll be totally honest with you, every time I got on a plane, I would be back doing my eye rolling, as if anybody does that. As if anybody's going to put their own mask on first before helping out their child, as if anyone's going to do that. And I will hand on heart say that when I got back on the plane from Marbella to come home, I was like, oh, I get it now. If I don't help myself, I can't help my family and I can't help everybody else that's around me. And I do get repeatedly reminded of that by the universe, which I will come on to. So I like to call this the happiness wheel as opposed to the coaching wheel. And those of you that are coaches and that have seen this before, you may have seen it with different labels, and that's absolutely fine. When I'm working with different people, I tend to put different things on the wheel. I tend to perhaps give it different labels depending on who it is that I work with. But I do like to call it the happiness wheel because I do like to give it, for me, I like to have that check-in of what it is. Yes, it is. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Sophia or Sobia? Yes, it is the same as the Wheel of Life, absolutely. And that wheel can have anything on it. There might be sections that are different for you. So we're not going to dip into this wheel too much today because we won't get around to looking at the rest of the keys. But I'm just going to talk through them. And then I'm going to ask you to pick which one most resonates with you to look at today. So firstly, we've got our career, our day jobs, our work. That maybe for you, that's your mission and your purpose in life. We've got our health and our well-being. Our play, which is our fun, our recreation, our recreation of ourselves. Personal growth and development. Contributing, giving back, that might be helping a neighbour. It could be doing things for charity. It could be doing some pro bono work. Your money, your finances. I work with a lot of financial advisors, and you know, just like some of us in the room are not too good at revisiting the coaching tools and NLP tools for ourselves. Sometimes, like financial advisors equally do not always check on their own finances. It's that not wanting to bring your work home with you. So money and finances, relationships, and you could split this up into several categories, really. Could be relationships with your partner, could be relationships with your family, your peers, your network, your home environment, your actual physical surroundings with you that you have. Now, I just want you to just take a moment, because there's a lot of deep work that can be done in all of these areas, and I'd love to go into all of them. But just for a moment, which one of those, just give yourself a moment just to think, which one of those resonates most with me right now that I need to work on? And if you're feeling brave, please share in the chat box. And for the perfectionists in the room, just try to choose one. Just giving yourself a gut reaction. Mission and purpose, or mission purpose, or lots of people's mission and purpose. And yes, I agree, Elizabeth, this does link to the neurological levels. And so if I were to give you all 13 steps, you'd find those all included. Play. I personally don't spend enough time playing. Creativity, money, finance, personal growth, lots of different things there. Thank you. So, taking into account whichever topic it is that you have looked at, I want you to just make some scribbles, some notes, maybe draw some pictures if that's how you like to put pen to paper. What would your perfect 10 look like in that area? And I mean your perfect 10. So if you've chosen health and well-being, your perfect 10 might be like mine. For example, that I want to try out and get out once a day to walk for 1K. And that for me would be a massive, massive, massive milestone, because I will admit to you that I've spent far too much time at my laptop and far too much time not focusing on my health this year. For somebody else that's already super healthy and's got a health goal, they might wish to be able to lift, I don't know, 120 kilos. But that's not me, and it wouldn't be a realistic thing for me. So just spend a couple of minutes just writing down everything about what it is that you want to achieve in that category, and what would be your perfect 10 for you. What are the kind of things that you're doing? Maybe there's certain people around you. Maybe there's stuff that you're doing already that you want to keep doing. So that's also very important, not to let go of anything that's going well. You could have your perfect 10. What would that look like? What else would you be doing? What else would you be seeing? Maybe you'd be hearing something. And when you achieve that perfect 10, how are you going to feel? And so knowing what you know now, and having explored that just a little bit, we could spend a really long time going through all of these things, which is my ultimate, is just to spend a whole weekend working on all of these things. So I appreciate that we've only getting a chance to scratch the surface. What can you make steps towards doing? Perhaps you can set yourself a goal for the early part of next year that will help you towards your perfect 10. So for me, my goal is that starting as soon as possible, but I'm going to set it from the 1st of January. I'm not a huge believer in New Year's resolutions per se. I am a believer in taking a check-in when you think the time is right and that you need to, and setting your new goals and reflecting and realigning. But so from January, I want to make sure that I run a kilometre a day. And I also want to make sure that I'm keeping a check of the time that I'm spending on things. So taking into account, when you're looking at your goal, you want it to have a deadline. And again, there's not a lot of time to dig into goal setting here, but there are well-formed outcomes, well-formed goals. If anyone wants any more information on goal setting, give me a shout after. But for example, giving yourself a goal that's not too far in the future so that it's so far away. So for example, it's the 31st of March and I'm walking a kilometre per day. And what that can also do is it can become an affirmation. Susanna, you may have been familiar, and many of you in the room may have heard the terms incantation. So when you've set your goal and it becomes an affirmation, so we're describing the goal as if it's already happened and that it is a thing that is in real time and that we are doing. So for example, as I said, it's the 31st of March and I'm walking a kilometre per day. When we turn that into an incantation, we think about connecting our senses to it. So it's the 31st March and I'm walking a kilometre per day. But when I think about that, and if I close my eyes and connect to that, what am I doing? Then I can sort of feel like I'm going to be walking, I'm going to be outside, there's trees. Oh, Rocchio, not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, might be Rocio. The last question, there were several. Set yourself, I don't know which one you mean, but you're setting yourself a goal for your perfect 10, and then you're imagining it in with all of your senses. Great pronunciation. So which one was it? Rocchio? Number 1 or number 2? Ah, yeah, thank you. It's very important to me to get people's names right, and with so many unusual names to me, I do always like to make sure, so thank you for that. So now you have a goal, and really that's the most important part, is exploring what it is you want things to look like, how you want it to feel, what's going to be going on around you, using all of your senses to connect to whatever it is that you want. So I absolutely encourage you all to explore every area of your wheel of life, your happiness wheel, your coaching wheel, whatever it is you term it. And I really encourage you to put it into pictures, but I also really encourage you to hold on to the things that are working well for you right now too. Don't put it out there to the universe that you want to get rid of anything that's working well for you. But also whenever you can connect to what that looks like. Some people like to do like a video thing so that they can sort of just watch it and imagine it on a daily basis. So next up, our values. Now, values is a really deep topic. I didn't realize how deep it was until I... So the universe is a bit funny, right? The universe sets you up, and do you ever find that you're repeating the same cycle? I often think that that's because we're not learning the lessons, and I'm going to be telling you about a few things that happened for me this year, but where I haven't quite learnt the lesson yet. So I'm not standing here telling you that my life is perfect. It's absolutely not. There is always room to correct your course. I didn't realize how important values were. Like I said, they were those fluffy words when I had to have my appraisal and I had to say that I'd acted with simplicity, or I'd been my best self, and they just felt like just fluffy things that I just did naturally, and I didn't really understand that actually when I felt that I just did them naturally, that's because I was connected to them and I was aligned. Now, your values are the things that are important to you. And had we had the time to do this for a whole day, we would have looked at your values, we would have structured your values, we would look at those fluffy words and see what they really, really, really mean to you. But we don't have time to do that today. So what I'm going to say to you is when you're thinking about the area that you're working on, the area that you chose as part of the wheel, why is it important to you? Why is working towards that perfect 10 important to you? And what does that bring you? Maybe it brings you some space. Maybe it brings you some more time in your life. Maybe it makes you feel more connected. And what does that bring you? And what does that bring you? As we chunk up, we get to our highest nominalization. Sometimes we'll go further than that and beyond words. And if anyone's left with one word yet, then please pop it in the chat box. Connection. Thank you, Pat. Purpose. Awesome. Janae. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you. And if you haven't got right up to one word yet, don't worry about it because it will come to you later on. Our reticular activating system in our brains searches for what we're looking for. Growth. Thank you. Christina, is that Christina? And if you haven't got one word, don't beat yourself up about it because values work is really deep work. I had to listen to my language. When I was early in my coaching, I did my coaching qualification and I would return as often as I could to help trainer Steve Payne. I would return as often as I could to help him and to be part of the resource team and just to soak up the energy and learn again. And every time I went back, it happened to be the values day. And every time I went back, I would go, oh, that fluffy stuff again. Why do we have to keep going over this? And the penny didn't drop for me for about 7 times. So if you also think it's fluffy stuff at the moment, then that's where I was. All of a sudden, it all hit me all at once. The company that I was working for changed their values that made so much sense to me. And suddenly all of the pennies dropped into place. Values is really deep work. We know that we're on track with our values when we're in flow. When everything just happens, when we get those little wonderful signs that lead us in the right direction. And part of this process helps us to follow those signs. We know when we're misaligned, we feel it in our bodies. We don't feel great. Something's not quite going to plan. We're not jumping out of bed, jumping for joy. And it doesn't matter whether we've chosen to do something and it's something that we've always wanted to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't still need to tweak things to make sure that they're going in our favor. So if you haven't got down to one word, don't worry about that because it's deep work. So next up, our habits and our behaviors. When you're thinking about your goal, when you're thinking about the area that you're working on, what are the things that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that are setting you up for success? And contrary to that, what are the things that are not? And we can be very judgmental about people's habits. We can make assumptions that certain things that people do in society are not healthy, for example, but there's always a positive intention behind every behavior. So it might be that you're a smoker and somewhere in your gut, you're like, this isn't setting me up for success. But there's also positive aspects, maybe, that it's allowing you to take a break during your day and that's what you need. So there might be something in there that needs some deep work on to shift and to find alternatives. And they don't have to be dramatic habits. Like how many of us accidentally, you pick up your phone because the alarm's gone off, you realise you've got a bucket load of notifications. Oh, it's done it again. If I put my hands up, it does that. You've got your phone, your alarm's gone off. You go, oh, so-and-so's WhatsApp me. Oh, I've had some notifications. Oh, I've had some messages. Next thing you know, you're halfway down a bucket load of reels. Or is that just me? I do that a lot. I think that's the creative person in me that works well for, because I learn all sorts of stuff when I get on social media. I'm very careful about what it is I'm looking at, but it also sends me down rabbit holes into things that are not so helpful for me. But we've all got those things. What are your things? What are your habits, your behaviors that are setting you up for success? And what's holding you back? And what are the things that you need to change? You know what those things are that you need to change, but are you brave enough to put them down on paper? I'm not going to be checking your worksheets. And if you're not brave enough to even put them down on your own notepad, maybe there's something in there that's deeper that needs working on. Maybe that's just me. Now, stepping into language. Now, the more you train in these skills, the sharper we become with our language. But we always have to have a check-in with our language. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if it's a female thing, maybe some of you guys do the same, but we can not set ourselves up for success. We can not take compliments very well. We can put ourselves down a lot. Now, I come from the insurance industry, and the reason why I was really great at my job is because I was so cynical. Because that actually is a really helpful trait when you've got somebody that's looking for danger in environments and assessing risks. And it also, I'm really great in emergency, which is also really great for somebody that worked in claims, to be there for customers when something went wrong. However, as part of that, I was a very negative, cynical person, because I would be looking for danger, and your reticular activator is going to find whatever it is that you're looking for. That's what it does. Has anybody ever looked for something or bought something and thought, oh yeah, this is so unique, nobody's got this? Maybe a car, maybe a dress, maybe an outfit, there's a few of you nodding. And then you've got it and you're like, oh, this is so unique. And then you see it everywhere. You buy a new car, every other car that goes past seems to be the same as yours. And that's not because they weren't there before. It's just because you weren't aware of them. And again, by going through these processes, you're heightening your awareness so that you're looking for what you want rather than what you don't want. So, our language. Are you setting yourself up for success? When someone comes to see you and they say, oh, you look fabulous today, do you go, oh yeah, but this happened, this happened, this happened, and oh look, I've broken a nail? Or do you just go, thank you? When you're on the way out the door, or you're coming up for a goal, or you're doing something outside of your comfort zone, are you standing there and backing yourself and saying, you can do this, you've got everything within you to do this? Or are you going, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this? Pay attention to your language. Pay attention to other people's language around you as well. I mean, language is a very deep subject, again. But when we hear, the universe doesn't hear can't or don't. Sorry, it does hear can't. It doesn't hear don't. Little babies, children don't hear don't either. You know, when you say, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and they're still doing it, it's because their brain's filtering out that information. So if you're putting out there that you don't want to be poor, or you don't want to be in certain environments, all your brain is really hearing is be in certain environments, be poor, be whatever. If you're in a towards frame and you're putting it out there with what you do want, your brain is going to be looking for what you do want. And so you're going to see more of that. But you also have to be super specific, because you could say, I want more money. And then you can find a penny on the floor and job done. But what exactly is it that you want? So when you're talking to yourself, how are you backing yourself? Are you being your best supporter? Are you telling yourself you can't do stuff, or are you looking to tell yourself that you can? If you feel like you can't do stuff, how can you turn those can'ts into cans? What baby steps do you need to step out of your comfort zone to stretch that area? Pay attention to your language and help other people pay attention to their language too. Because, I mean, in this section, when we go deeper, we look at the limiting beliefs. So the limiting beliefs come up in our language, but we set our own ceilings, mostly in the language that we're using. That's not possible for me because ... I can't do that because ... people like me ... How can we switch those can'ts into cans? Be your best supporter. You know, I never used to share my successes and what happened for me in my career, and I don't actually know yet whether it's just in the industry that I'm in, but what happened for me in my career is that people stole my ideas. People trod on me to achieve their own success because I was too shy to think about my own successes. I'm also extremely externally referenced. So if that's an unfamiliar term, if you're externally referenced, you're looking for the outside world to give you gratification, to know that you've done a good job. Now, the biggest pitfall that I had in my career was when other people stopped telling me I was doing a great job because I wasn't doing it for myself. And then what I felt was that the rest of the universe, the world, whatever was against me. But what was actually happening is that I was only telling myself I was great when other people were telling me that I was great. You have to be your own best supporter. It sounds like a very lonely, cynical thing to say, but we do only have ourselves. So that's language. Environment. What's in your physical environment that is going to set you up towards your goal, to reaching your perfect 10? And what's not? Maybe there's things that you need to purchase, physical things. Maybe if you want to start running in January, you need to actually go and buy a pair of trainers. Maybe there's things that you need to do away with in order to meet the goal that you're achieving. Is your personal environment, or the environment where you plan to do this thing, conducive with what it is that you need to achieve? Is it congruent? And if it's not, what do we need to do? And who are those people that are going to help you with this? Maybe there are people and things and environments that you need to stay away from that aren't conducive. Taking a typical health goal. If you want to become more healthy, it's probably not helpful to be in the pub every day, unless you can be really, really good at just drinking water and eating salad. So it'd be very judgmental of me to say that certain things fall into certain boxes. For everybody individually, it's different. And last but by no means least, gratitude. What are you grateful for right now? Maybe some of those things are aligned and helping you towards what you want to achieve. You know, sometimes our lives go up and down like a roller coaster, and sometimes when we're trying to practice gratitude, you can have tears flowing down your face and you're like, oh, I'm just so glad I'm alive, but I don't actually feel like I'm glad I'm alive. And sometimes we can feel like that. You know, it would be, it is naive to think that you just pick up these tools and suddenly your life's fixed. All of these tools help and they elevate our success, but only for as long as we keep checking in. Life stuff happens. Big life stuff happens. And in those moments, how can we be grateful? How can we find something to be grateful for? When we arrive at a funeral, maybe it reconnects us with an old friend. When we're ill, maybe we can think about the people and the places and the things that we've maybe missed, but not in a sad way, but in a grateful that we've had them before and opportunities to maybe bring them about again. What are those things that you're grateful for? We can all have imposter syndrome, even when we know we're at the top of our game. Partly because we're still doing this and beating ourselves up. Now I'm going to share with you the big one and how it doesn't always work. These tools, actually, they do always work. Let me correct my own language. They do always work, but you need to be very, very, very specific. And if I take you back to 2021, in 2021, or 2020, December 2020, the world went crazy. Something amazing happened for me when the world went crazy, because not only did I suddenly find myself absolutely flying in my day job, but so many things were happening for me in the coaching world. I just started, I'd done my first speaking event in the insurance industry, which was a huge, huge, huge thing for me. I did this session on limiting beliefs. And lots of things were going in my favor. And on my vision board, I had a redundancy check, a paper check, that I'd torn off and I'd filled in, and it'd been there a really long time. And I kept looking at it and thinking, no, that's not quite right. So I printed off a bank statement and I dated it the 25th of January 2021. And I put a number on there that I calculated as my corporate redundancy payment, which you could do that. It was on a calculator online. When the world went crazy, the company that I worked for was super proud that they weren't going to make anybody redundant. I'd been there 25 years at this point. They were super proud that they weren't going to make anybody redundant. And what happened? My heart sunk. I looked at my redundancy on my vision board and thought, that's not going to happen for me. And a few months later, another team were made redundant. And I put my hand up and I said, can you make me redundant, please? And if one of those can have my job, can I go? Because I really wanted to jump in. Now, there was no way I was going to do my NLP trainers training. I wouldn't have been able to take the time out of my day job. They wouldn't have allowed it. It wasn't aligned to that role. And they said, yes, you can do the trainers training. You can take the redundancy. Now, on the lead up to that, I put in so much effort for everybody else that I knew that I was burning the candle at both ends. It was coming up to Christmas. I knew that my redundancy day was coming, but I'd been told that I would stay until June 2021, and they'd given me this carrot that I was going to do all of this training. Now, I kept telling everybody throughout December, everyone was saying, slow down, Caroline, you're going to make yourself ill. I'm like, my values were that I was not going to leave my colleagues in the lurch. I was going to make sure everything that I ever knew for the last 25 years was documented, and people had the place to go, even if they didn't do it. Oh, Gwen, you got redundancy as well. Oh, you've got a smiley face on that. That's good, because it's not always a chosen thing. The things that we choose, we can smile about. Sometimes we don't realize that actually things that we don't choose send us off course. Now, I was burning the candle at both ends. I was super throwing myself into my work to do everything for my colleagues. And I said repeatedly, I'm going to have a break after Christmas. I'm going to have a break after Christmas. So when I say to you, be careful with your language, literally on Boxing Day, I became very, very, very ill. I was out of work for 4 weeks. When I returned, and I only returned because another trainer said to me, can you help me with something online? And my work ethic said, if I can't do my work, I can't train for somebody else. That's that I can't, even though I'd just be sitting there doing the chat box and what have you. My work ethics were that was not right. If you can't go to work, you can't do that. And what happened was, I messaged my manager and said, I think I'm up to clearing a few emails and things, like to get myself back on track, and then maybe I'll be in next week. And he phoned me and he said, no, Caroline, you're not, I don't need you to do that. So what do you mean? He said, we've cleared all of your emails. And you're leaving on Tuesday anyway. I was like, what? I'm here till June. We've got the training project. And he said, oh, no. While you've been ill, while you've been away, none of that got signed off, so it's not happening. And obviously I was in shock. I had 4 days left to work. My leaving date, I left on the 2nd of February 2021. The reason that I'm sharing this with you is not only that did I put it out there that I wanted a rest, but I wasn't specific enough. But had I not had the work ethic of making sure that my colleagues were all okay and taken my due holiday from the previous year, I would have left on the 25th of January 2021. The date on the statement on my vision board. So be very careful with your language. Now, finally, one from Jiminy Cricket. When your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. Be grateful. Be kind. Be courteous. Don't be too greedy. And I promise you the world will bring you everything that you desire. But when you notice that things aren't going so well, and I was saying to Cash before we started this session, when you notice that things aren't going so well, And I repeated my prior cycle, and I said, I'm going to have a rest after such and such event. I didn't learn from 2021. I didn't get knocked out quite as I was, but I have been knocked out for the last 2 weeks. My voice, thankfully, has returned for me to share with you today. But be very, very, very careful, and to notice the signs, notice the things in your body when you need to get yourself back on track. And something to share with you. This is a painting when I was really down one day, when my daughter, when she was 8 years old, and she'd been listening to the things that I'd been exploring on my newfound coaching journey. And she'd played at making vision boards and things with me. And she reminded me this day that there has to be sunshine and rain to make rainbows. So believe in yourself, dream big. Everything that you want is available to you. It's just a matter of how. And so thank you for having me. If you want to explore any of this further, then I'd love to jump on a call with you. You can book yourself a free discovery call. If you want to deep dive into this, there is a session running on the Saturday, the 20th of January. A whole day. It's live online, so wherever you are in the world, you can join me for a deep dive into this topic, and you can find that on my website at Enabling Wings. It's just £77 for you guys in the room, and it's been an absolute honour. Thank you so much for having me, and I know we've run out of time for purposes of recording, but if anyone wants to stay online and ask any questions or talk about anything on a personal level, then please do. So what are your key takeaways and/or any questions? Key takeaways first. Any learnings from today? Nothing at all, but you sat there for 90 minutes. Gwen?
I was just going to say to use things like the wheel of life for ourselves, because I tend to use it with clients and not actually think, oh, I could stop and do that for me. So yeah, that's a key takeaway. That and the like the well-formed outcomes, again, simple enough to walk yourself through, or I can get somebody else to do it with me.
Reach out. Absolutely, we forget these tools are simple, but we forget to use them for ourselves. They're simple, but they're very powerful. Any other key takeaways? Thank you.
Christina's written in the chat, the key takeaway for her is be careful what you wish for, be specific.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Be very careful. Don't want to end up making the blunders, and you will make blunders. But that's just life. I think the universe, God, spirituality, whatever you want to frame it in your world, however you want to frame it in your world, I think it has a sense of humor. It's not always that I think we can often find the funny side and the positives in some of these things. Any other key takeaways? And thank you all for, I know we've run over time.
There's a quick question from Sobi, a small question, talking about perfect 10, if I heard it correctly. Do we need to identify 10 goals, or what exactly?
No. You don't need to identify 10. You can identify a goal for every single one. Or you can identify just one goal. Your perfect 10 is on a scale of 1 to 10. What would be your perfect outcome in that particular area? Dream it, see it, believe it, put it into pictures. Anything else? Lead from your heart, we've got. Be careful what you wish for. Lead from your heart. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do make a vision board. I thought it was just wacky rubbish, but what it does is there's science behind it. The reticular activator only knows what it's looking for. So if you haven't thought about what you want, I've got 2 teenage children, and they're always like, "Well, I don't want that," and I'm but you know, we need to think about what we do want. Not feeling like we're greedy. We don't. It's not a greedy thing. It's just about guiding ourselves in the right direction. Oh, can I talk about getting rid of self-limiting beliefs? Well, I can. Got an hour? Book in with me if you want to through that link. I guess I would say, whatever those limiting beliefs are, those negative things that you're saying about yourself or about life in general, what evidence do you have to disprove it? That would be my first thing. I mean, those in the room that are trained in NLP will know that there's actually bucket loads of processes that unlock your limiting beliefs, but to talk about any of those processes in any deep context wouldn't really give them justice. So but firstly, if you notice that you've got something limiting you, what is the evidence that you've got that that's not true? Because what that does is that casts some doubt on it. You, as coaches, many people in this room are coaches, you might have people that say, oh, I just hate my job. And then as a coach, you reflect back and say, oh, you hate your job? And then they go, oh, no. I don't hate my job. I hate these bits about my job. And these things aren't going too well about my job. Sometimes when we actually just hear that limiting belief reflected back to us, it can go, just hearing ourselves saying it, hearing someone reflect it back to us can cast that doubt. So I hope that's helpful. So I think that's all we've got time for today. We've already gone over by 5 minutes. But if you have any questions, queries, want to dive into any of this, read the article. Cash, keep going, Karen, because that's what it says on your label. Cash is gonna share that on the website. So do have another look and have a fabulous 2024. Dream big. Lead with your heart, be grateful, and enjoy it. Enjoy every minute.